Walter Wonkite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live. Yes, we are live, and we are coming to you from lifestyleradio.net. And tonight, I'm at the Underground Lounge. I'm your host, Al Ram. Tonight's joint host, Alicia Yashcheshen, has a guest that is a person who is involved in addictions and mental health issues, and is also a patient. But before we find out more about our guest, it's time for Alicia and I to have a chat. Hello, Alicia. How are you tonight?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm not doing too bad, I must say. You know, I'm just looking forward to spring.
Me too.
Yeah, eh? You tired of the snow?
Well, you see, the thing is we're supposed to be getting more snow in Saskatchewan this week, and I'm not too keen on that.
No, I wouldn't be either. I know we got some in our long range forecast, but you know, sometimes at this time of the year, it doesn't happen. So I know, unfortunately, you're out west. You're a little more north than us, and west.
Yeah, and it's damn cold here. Okay, let's just say that.
It was 10 degrees here today.
Yeah, it was like minus 20, I think, here, and we're preparing for like a snowfall.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that. All right. Now, talking about snow and everything, I don't know if you heard back in, what was it? Back at Christmas time, that there was an advent calendar that was out, and people could buy this calendar. And every day before Christmas, you would open your little door. Instead of getting a chocolate, you actually got a little bit of a sample of cannabis in it. Did you hear about them back then?
Awesome. I think that's such a good idea. That's an awesome way to celebrate things in the cannabis community, for sure.
Oh, yeah, I believe so, too. Now, that same company's turn around and what they're doing is they've created packaging that they're going to send to dispensaries and online stores to help with the countdown of 420.
Oh, I love it.
So, yeah.
Is that
just
in celebration of like the last 420 that we'll celebrate under Prohibition?
Maybe.
Supposing?
Well, yeah, could be. We never know. See what happens, right? You know, something could happen between now and when it actually gets royal assent. So, let's see what else. Yeah, dispensaries, April the 20th. They have created. They're hoping to sell 5,000 of these calendars. So if you're a dispensary anywhere, I would assume anywhere, it doesn't matter, right? Because 420 happens all around the world. So it wouldn't matter whether you lived in Vancouver, Canada, whether you lived in the U.S. You could go ahead and order these. That'd be cool. There you go.
Yeah, that would be. That'd be so neat, hey?
Yeah. Yes. Well, and you know, it's something different, so why not? All right. Well, have you got anything else you'd like to discuss in the news tonight, Alicia? Let's just get right to our guest.
Let's just get right to our guest.
All right, and we'll do that.
Anyways, no.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, at this time, I'd like to welcome the person I described as someone who is involved in addictions and mental health and is also a patient. We'd like to welcome Jaime Hagel to the Pace Radio Show. Hello, Jaime. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. We're really thankful that you're going to come on the show here and tell us a bit about your story and what's going on in your part of the woods.
Absolutely. Thanks. Yes, great opportunity for me.
Exactly. Like here at the Pace Radio Show, we like to give patients an opportunity to give them a voice, and we always believe that by sharing one story, you help educate others.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, all right. What we're going to do here, Jaime, before we go to our breaks tonight that happened at the bottom of the hour and the top of the hour, I'm going to hand things over to Alicia. She's going to ask some questions to you, and I'll jump in along the way.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Over to you, Alicia.
Okay, so what I like to do here at Pace is I like to ask how you first came into contact with cannabis. What's your first experience, if you can tell us about it?
My first experience was not medicinal. It was in high school with my friends, and we were experimenting. So it was just, we did it the one time. We laughed, we ate, and we really, we didn't do it again. Further on, we tried it a few other times, but that was my first experience with it.
And so later on in life, how did you come back to cannabis?
Well, the odd time here and there, we would use it, go dancing a couple hours in university. But when I was in university, we did a lot of sweats, and we did a lot of traditional ceremonies. So we stayed away from substances. Mm-hmm. And then one of my interests, getting out of university, trying to figure out where I was going to do my long-term practicums, I decided to go into the addictions field.
Oh, okay. And so the addictions field, tell me about your education. What did you have to learn to be able to qualify yourself?
Well, originally I just went to university, and I went to Saskatoon Indian Federated College, and I got a Bachelor of Indian Social Work. So I had a degree, but I did my practicum placements within the addictions environment. So after my placements, I just rolled on into the addictions field.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so your classes, what types of classes you took in your education? Let's go over those,
Well, I mean, all the different classes that you would take in the social work field. There's addictions, there's counseling, there was family, there was divorce, there was trauma. There's all the different types of classes that you would be able to take. And another, I've worked with my past employer for 15 years, so I had the opportunity of going to a lot of different trainings within the health region in regards to addiction.
Mm.
So.
Okay. And so how is addictions and how do they view cannabis or cannabis use?
I would like to say that.
Let's go over the history, from
my history.
Yeah, what was your phone? But let's. The tincture hits the floor. Let's go to how the health region perceives cannabis, how it's evolved. Let's go there.
Well, I'm not really quite sure how it's evolved from when I was working in the past. I know we did a lot of drug education, and we educated a lot of, in regards to cannabis and the effects of cannabis. I've been ill. I've had my illness for since I was 21, diagnosed at 21. So I was already investigating some of, the medicinal properties of cannabis. So, I mean, we weren't, the information that we provided to the community, I believe, was accurate. However, now that I know what I know in regards to medicinal stuff, I believe that there's a lot more information that we need to provide added to, because without it, I believe it could be harmful.
Okay. Mr. Al?
Yeah. Was there any things that you were taught while you're learning about addictions and all that in regards to cannabis that you look back at now that you would question?
I don't know about questioning, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I'm learning now. Like, for example, when I used to work with youth, and a lot of the youth, like all the youth that would come to me, like we did intervention and prevention work within all the city schools. And so a lot of the youth that would come to me while I was placed at the high school, because they were caught smoking dope or because they were selling dope, they would come to me. And my question to them was, have you been diagnosed with something? Because every kid that came into that room was diagnosed with something, and they would tell me that they would prefer to, smoke up before school, and they could be able to concentrate for that hour rather than using Ritalin or whatever it was that they were prescribed because they said they couldn't function. So looking back now at some of the stuff that they're saying about medicinal use in adolescence and anxiety and all of that, and then looking back at, 9 out of the 10 kids that would come up that used dope chose to use it. A lot of the other kids that would come up and, they'd use it once or twice and it didn't do anything for them. So I found that a lot of these kids were self-medicating.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they were doing. Yeah, I've talked to many of the adults who talk about cannabis helping them for that versus the Ritalin and everything as what they were given to them as kids.
For sure.
Which is the same information you're getting from at your end of it all, which is
absolutely.
Yeah, allows them to focus, concentrate.
But these are supposed to be the pillars of society who perpetuate health agendas, who teach us about health. And so they're excluding this large part of our body, the endocannabinoid system, at whose cost, at what cost? But ours, because most of the disease that we encounter today are as a result of being low in what? In cannabinoids, right?
That's right.
And what has been banned, especially in Canada, since 1923.
Right.
So if you want to look at the disease and the patterns of disease, look at when they started banning cannabis and taking it out of our daily lives and how that's affected men and women's bodies.
And how more autoimmune conditions have increased.
Right.
I've looked at. I agree with you, Alicia. I've looked at that myself and thought, geez, there's a. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's one thing that I think we need to include in that education too. And like when we're talking about diseases, that's the one thing. That's what we talk about. Addiction is a disease, right? And so, coming from that view, a disease is a disease is a disease. So just like Crohn's disease or alcoholism or whatever, we need to educate properly. And so when we're talking about healing, and that's the one big part of what I've taken from my schooling and from the elders I've worked with is the importance of the medicine wheel and being able to put in the areas to heal. And so, one thing that I'm really passionate about is not only using cannabis as medicine, but what else do we need to put in place to have that balance along with the medicine? And education is so key, and getting out that stigma. And like for me as a professional in the community, I want to be respected for using cannabis, not shunned upon, because it's saving my life. It saved my life.
Yeah. Now, every once in a while, like I'll post stories that I see in the newspaper, about the number of deaths that have occurred due to the opiate and fentanyl situations that's going on across North America. And I'll see somebody post, they're just a bunch of drug addicts. They're just going to die anyway. Just let them kill themselves. And I think, hang on here. These are people, These are people that don't, always choose the path that they're going on. They could have gone through some traumatic experience at some time. It's not always by choice.
No, and that's another thing is, I prior to I've been sick for over 20 years with this disease, and I've tried, to be on several pharmaceuticals, Buscopan, Salicyl, Pentasa, of course, the steroids and opiates. And so prior to this my last flare that lasted 5 years, I was doing programming within the jail institution for opiates. And so my clientele, the majority, like my clientele consisted of men on the methadone program. And, these people, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the methadone program, but the people that I worked with, 9 out of 10 of these men were there because of a prescription narcotic. They didn't just, decide that they were going to become addicts and start doing crime and end up in jail and making it a career, because they were there because it started with an opiate prescription. And for me, having that being my only choice of painkiller or pain relief or pain management was an opiate, it was killing me inside. So I white-knuckled it. I went to work in pain, crunched over, because I knew what this drug did to my clients, and it broke my heart. And I didn't want to be an addict. I didn't want to, end up using it on the street. And I did some looking into, some doctors that promote cannabis over opiates. And I know Dr. Claw in the States, he was talking about that. And he was saying that 83% of opiate prescriptions come from the U.S. and only 3%, it's only 3% of our population, but 83%. And Canada and the United States are the only countries that prescribe opiates for pain management.
Wow, really? So, the only ones.
Yeah, and and talking about the option now, if I would have known then what I knew now about cannabis, there would have been a lot of different, there would have been so much that I didn't have to go through. You would
have taken a different path for sure. Now, you mentioned, you just want to jump in, you mentioned the word disease. Okay, now, I may know what condition that you have, but our listeners aren't aware. You mentioned a flare-up, so you let everybody know what you do have?
I have Crohn's disease.
Crohn's disease, and for those who don't know, Crohn's disease is?
I'm sorry. Oh, it's a bowel disease. Right now, I have a stricture, which is a blockage in between my small and large intestine. And so with flares, your intestines flare, or with the flares, your intestines flare up and they close in. And so I have, a blockage in one spot of my intestine, which I've been able to manage with cannabis. I had surgery.
Good.
Yeah. So I was referred to a surgeon. But since I've been using cannabis oil, I haven't needed surgery. So right now I've been over 3 years without any medication, pharmaceuticals, needles, nothing, just cannabis.
Yeah, and being that you're dealing with Crohn's disease in your bowel, probably one of the last things that you want to consume is an opiate drug as well, because of the side effect of what it does to your digestive system, your bowel system.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so before the cannabis, Jamie, what did you use to control your Crohn?
I would take the opiate prescription when I really, really, really had to. And a lot of the time I would go without and I would end up in the hospital. And that's how I would end up starting the opiate again, is through the hospital. And then I would wean off getting out, and I would pretty much just white knuckle it. I would try and put up with the pain.
And what about the inflammation, though? What were you taking?
Saskatoon. They prescribed me so much.
Biologic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so what did those do to you?
Oh, God. Before I started the oils of cannabis, I was prescribed the Remicade. And so the effects of, obviously we know the side effects of opiates. That's one thing that the doctor was saying is, your function level, it might take the pain away, but what are your functioning levels like on opiate, right? So I didn't function. With the opiate, I needed gravel because I was nauseous. And so I was out, I was sleeping. I was just a little ball of mess in the corner in the dark room prior to, and then, that's what I used. And then...
It's too bad that more people, with Crohn's disease and probably in other conditions as well, aren't aware of the option, especially here in Canada, where you have the option to grow your own or have someone grow yours, or if you have to, there is that option of purchasing it. And because myself, as I have Crohn's as well, and Alicia has Crohn's, so all three of us. it's one of those. I don't know. It's not. I was talking to Al earlier about sort of a shit show because there's three of us who have Crohn's disease. You know.
You'll have to be comfortable talking about poop with the cronies.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. But I've had Crohn's since 2003 was when I was diagnosed with it. And I left the hospital with a bottle of pain pills, and I returned them to the pharmacy 3 years later. I haven't had a prescription.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the only time I've actually had a prescription is only when I've been hospitalized. But as far as being outside of the hospital, I haven't had a prescription for an opiate pain pill. Cannabis.
Awesome.
So yeah, like yourself, and I'm sure that from what you've learned from all this, you just want to get out there and tell everybody.
Well, absolutely. I think it's really important. Like for a long time, I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. I was shunned because of, the way I was felt in the community, my position, how people looked upon cannabis users. And so I stayed hidden for a really long time from that. And I really think it's important that it's an option for people like us, people with Crohn's especially, because I know so many people with this disease that cannabis is an option. And if you can avoid the hospital visits and the surgeries and the addiction to opiates, wow, like this should be one of our first options.
Correct. Exactly. I understand there's some that are just so severe, but if you got that option, it's there to use. That's for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, if I would have known then what I know now too, just about the different options of medicine and the ways to consume it, I might have probably made different choices, but I didn't know any better. Like I was so desperate. I did not want to, like I said, become an opiate addict because I just felt so, bad for the clients that I was working with, that everybody, would say, Jamie, just smoke some pot. You'll feel better. Just smoke some pot. And so I did. And it was amazing, because my nickname used to be Princess Nausea. And the cannabis, and the cannabis helped that, the nausea. I didn't have to be on gravel sleeping.
Right. Oh, I was going to ask you a question there. My mind went blank. Go ahead.
Nausea, though, like that comes with the disease also. Because I know with me, sometimes I'll eat and then I feel nauseous. And there's all this like Crohn's, produced nausea. Like that's a big thing. That's a real thing too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then, we know that, with having Crohn's disease, our brains and our guts are connected. Like they're best friends, right? So, they feed off of each other. So, we have anxieties with Crohn's disease because, we have the pooping disease. So
that's right.
We travel, right? So when we travel, we have to, like, if we were to travel far places and you're in the middle of a flare, you're not sure if you're going to have a flare, like, if they come so fast, you need to make sure you're ready. Like, you need to make sure, like, we're in the bathroom.
Body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so there's those types of things that you have, so, you have that anxiety. Oh God, if I eat this, am I going to get sick? And then, you eat it and then you worry a little bit. And, that's another thing that cannabis does is you don't worry about if that food's going to hurt your tummy because, well, I know it doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
So on opiates, though, what was the consequence of eating?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I didn't eat I didn't function. I did not function on opiates. And that's the one thing that he was talking about, that Dr. Claw. And I find him really fascinating, but he did say that. He said pain level versus function level, right? Opiates are very good because we choose opiates because we think it's fast and easy, good way of pain relief, which it is, but our function levels go down.
Yeah.
Function, right? And so with me, I find that, sorry.
Have you seen the app for people like ourselves that's come out from the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation? It's called Go Here. So it tells you where all the washrooms are.
Oh. Well,
yeah.
Needed it since I've been on a really high dose of CBD oils. I haven't needed, like I can actually go out and enjoy a draft.
Good.
And gravy.
When I was first diagnosed, that was a big thing for me, is pooping in public. Like, I used to poop in public, and then I got sick, and I had no choice. Like, previous to getting sick, you know? Mm-hmm. But it is, because bathrooms are a gross place, and especially for a Crohn's patient, like, you could get really sick in there because there's a lot of, like, lurking bacteria and germs, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's part, like, the grand thing of being a Crohn's patient is you have to be really careful, especially with food, too, as well, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Because that costs stuff. Like, have you ever had any type of, like, bowel bug, Al?
No, what do you call those? Parasites. Now, Jamie, you mentioned that you were on Remicade. What happened? Obviously, you must be off of it now.
Oh yeah, I would go in for my infusions every 6 weeks. Well, they weren't regular; they kept messing up, so I wasn't actually getting them properly. I was sick. Like, you would go in for an hour and a half and sit there. Then your immune system would be down, so you can't really go places if people are sick. So because you would get really sick, you know, a little cut would turn into like the flesh-eating disease. It's really bad. Like, I have really bad scars on my body from, you know, a cat scratch. And so my last infusion, I was on it for about over a year. And my last infusion, I came home and I suffered from paralysis for 2 days. I could not move at all. And for years prior to, I was following Colton Turner in Colorado. And so I knew that, you know, what that little boy went through and how Remicade, you know, because it takes your immune system down. It's like chemo for Crohn's people. Yeah. So you have no immune system and you have to build it back up. And so you're more susceptible of getting other diseases. And so he was in a wheelchair from it. And so after having this paralysis, I got scared and I quit. Like, that's when I fired my gastroenterologist because they told me I was bad for smoking. Yeah, I was bad for smoking marijuana for pain, because he said to me, why aren't you filling out your opiate prescription? Well, because I'm smoking marijuana. You need to stop that right now. But it was the one thing that was working for me, right? So rather than following and looking at what it did beneficially for me, they just thought it was bad. And so then that was hard for me, because I would go into the hospitals with a flare and they would already have me targeted as a drug user. And so they were really mean, and it was really hard to get in. And then they were saying that I was drug seeking. And if it wasn't for the few times that, you know, thank goodness, I would end up with a nurse in admitting that had a girlfriend that had Crohn's or somebody, you know, and then that way you had some sympathy. They knew that you weren't faking, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a former Remicade patient. That was why I wondered what had happened. I ended up with melanoma. So because I ended up, now was it caused by the Remicade? What I was told was a 2 to 3% chance there was a possibility that it was caused from that, and because of the melanoma, I could no longer be on Remicade anymore.
Right. So, sorry, what is melanoma? Is that skin cancer?
Skin cancer, correct. Yep. Yeah. But up until that point, I was like 10 years. So. Yeah.
You know, I was getting lesions, and I was, you know, some people might think, you know, you're just doing things up, but my skin was thinning out on a lot of places, and I would get really dark patches from, I believe it. I think the Remicade is absolute poison. I could feel it in my body. When I was sitting there, I could feel it, and then I felt like so horrible after. And so, I went off my Remicade and because of the paralysis, and I was good for a couple months, and then I ended up really sick with a flare, and you know, the pain can get so bad that, you know, you're going to pass out. And so I went into the hospital, and that's when, you know, you have IVs in your feet already, because my arms were gone for IVs and stuff. And that's when
vein pain. Mm-hmm. Oh God, I had vein pain the other day.
I still have that.
I know, right? Does that ever go away?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, Al, have you ever had vein pain?
No, I've never heard of it actually. I just call it pain. I don't know anything about nerve vein pain.
They hurt, they throb, especially on the insides of your arms where they take blood.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I just think about it, and that anxiety goes up. It's like, oh, God, yeah.
Do they search for an hour to find a vein?
Oh, hours hours and hours. Like they're like when I go into the hospital, they just go right for my feet because it's documented that I don't have any more veins available for that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's what they've told me. The feet is the spot to go for sure. Yeah. Okay, ladies, it is break time.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Over here.
Yeah. You two are together. This is a rarity where the guest and the host are together in the same room. You got a live audience there, Alicia.
Yeah.
Okay. Tonight's bumper stuff. Usually I line up music to deal along with the line of our guests, and I had to do some searching for you, Jamie, but I found something. Tonight's bumper music isn't music. It's actually the words of Dr. Sue Sisley and her comments around PTSD and cannabis. When we return, we'll continue our talk with our guest, Jaime Hagel. This is the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at lifestyleradio.net.
Hey, this is Cheech. And this is Chong. And you're listening to Lifestyle Radio. What is it? Lifestyle Radio. Say it one more time. 420 Radio? Ooh.
Please hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
What I find from patients is a lot of them learn how to use it more in a targeted way to manage. For instance, a lot of our PTSD patients have flashbacks at night and real trouble sleeping, and so they can simply dose marijuana in the evenings to help them decompress so that they can get some rest at night, which normally they couldn't do.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
Are you looking for cannabis news, education, and people's opinions? Are you looking to learn what Canadian and international cannabis advocates are doing? Not only now, but what got them to this point in their lives, and what does the future hold for them? Do you want to learn how patients are using cannabis as their daily medication, or learn how their cannabis use helps them with their medical condition? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then I'm going to suggest to you to tune in to Lifestyle Radio. Catch their live weekly shows and have your questions and concerns answered and find the experience you're looking for. Monday, catch your weekly news broadcast with the Reef Reporters. Then on Wednesday, get several hours worth of cannabis public education. We get things started with cannabis and coffee with Tamarawana. Then tune in and catch Pottawa with Russell Barth, who calls himself the world's angriest pothead. Finish up your evening with the award-winning Pace Radio Show with Al Graham and joint host Kim Cooper and Alicia Yashcheshen. No week would be complete without tuning into Friday night's program, the 420 Radio Show, featuring Al Rapp and the 420 Radio crew, Mary Jane Baker and Marcel Gignac. Cannabis is a lifestyle, and you can catch all your cannabis lifestyle information right here at lifestyleradio.net or at our sister site, 420radio.ca.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet, www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
CTCP now operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CTCP.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Proof is in the clinical response. We're seeing patients who are able to walk away from a lot of their psych meds and their opioids and simply manage their symptoms with one drug, marijuana, and that speaks volumes. Despite what the government says about marijuana having no medical value, you can't deny all these anecdotal reports.
Hey, we're back, and you're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live, yes, as I always say, live here at lifestyleradio.net, as well as the other shows that are live too. And if you can't catch the live show, you can always catch the podcast afterwards on iTunes. Tonight in the program, I'm joined by our guest, Jaime Hagel, and joint host, Alicia Yashcheshen. Okay, ladies, before the break, we were talking a little bit about Jaime and her work with addictions, and we'll probably revisit that as the show goes on, as well as the fact that Jaime is a patient that uses cannabis to help deal with your Crohn's disease, correct, Jaime?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, now cannabis addictions, you want to help people. Cannabis and helping people leads me to the next question, and where you're helping people with a dispensary, from my understand.
Yes, I was.
And what happened there?
So as I was telling you, I went off Remicade because of the side effects, and I ended up in the hospital the following February. Mm-hmm. And I contacted Colton Turner's mom, Wendy, in Colorado. Yes, and I might get emotional because this is a happy thing for me, but I contacted them, and within minutes, I had people from all over Canada helping me, trying to help me get my prescription. And so within a few months, I got my prescription, and then I thought, now what the hell do I do with it? I'm just legally smoking it. I don't know anything about it. So then I started doing some more research and stuff. And I contacted Mark Hoke at I found a card for the Saskatchewan Compassion Club. And so I contacted him and I said, what do you have for counseling services, support services? And he said, well, he didn't have anything up and running yet. He had just got a location approval from the city to, you can open up, we'll monitor you for a few months. And that's about as far as he had. So I got together with him, and with my background of developing programs in the community, because that's what I did. I went out into the community, what's needed, and I developed the program. So he was the one who I was able to access the oils that I was looking for, because I didn't know where to access them. I knew I could get dry marijuana from my licensed producer, but I didn't have anywhere to access the oils that Colton Turner was using. So Mark actually and the Compassion Club, they were the first ones to give me the oil. And within 2 days, I was feeling better. 2 days. And I had, and the pooping disease, like, I think it's important for me to say, but like prior to that, for 3 years, I was going to the bathroom 6 times a day between 3 in the morning and 10 in the morning, and it was water. And after I started using the oils, 2 days, it was normal. And so, like, my family, my friends, we were all crying because it was phenomenal. And so I thought it's really important, and especially with all the information that I was gathering around medicinal marijuana, cannabis is I thought it was important. So, and for me as a professional in the community, I still felt bad that this medicine is so amazing for people with Crohn's, but yet we're ashamed to use it. So I joined forces with the Compassion Club, and my purpose of being a part of the Saskatchewan Compassion Club was to develop that holistic circle, that holistic model for support for patients, so we can have a support group and we can provide education in the community about medical cannabis. And so, yeah, I was at the Compassion Club when they raided us, when they raided the Compassion Club. So
take us to that, who raided?
Okay. So basically what happened was we were, Mark was pretty open book. He was having meetings with Mark Hoke. He was having meetings with the police service and, the Saskatoon. Yeah, the Saskatoon Police Service and the City Hall. And, it was open. This is what we're doing. We're providing medication for people. Like, there's a gap in services, like for people who don't have a computer, people who don't have credit card. For me, for example, I needed the oil, and there was no place for me to access that medicine except for at a dispensary. And I would have to order it online, again, through a credit card, and have to wait for it to come through the mail. So having access to it right then and there was really important for me because, again, 2 days with it helped, but 2 days without it, I am sick. I am keeled over again. So I needed that, and there's a lot of people that accessed the place that needed it, and everything that we did there was legitimate. Like, you needed to have a prescription from a doctor. You needed to have a diagnosis, a prescription, and also we went as far as making sure they were registered with another dispensary. And so being able to work with the police service, and that's what I had done in my past, right? Like, I had sat on, the Solvent Abuse Committee with the police service. I, did work with the Integrated Drug Unit for marijuana information groups with them. And so I was under the impression that, yes, they are support of harm reduction, and because we were having meetings in place, we felt it was safe. And so I was there the morning that the Saskatoon Police Service raided the Saskatchewan Compassion Club, and me and the three of us, so the four of us, they called us the Compassion Club 4 in the paper, but the 4 of us were arrested, and we were all patients. And it was an experience that changed my life forever. But being there changed my life. Like, meeting Lane, who also had Crohn's, he taught me so much. And that's what I mean. Like, if I would have known now what I knew then, when I first started, I would have started eating it rather than smoking it, like, right off the bat, right? So there's just some things that I think is really important for the community still. 2 years ago, when we were raided, it was really devastating for the medical community.
So did they come in and guns a-blazing?
No, it was pretty ridiculous, actually. Like, supposedly they had this 2-month Project Sexturn operation on us, but yet they didn't know I was a social worker doing programming there. They didn't know we were going to be doing education for the community. They didn't know we were going to be doing educational groups. They didn't realize that, the same police chief that put the arrest or said that we should be arrested or whatever was the same police chief that I sat on harm reduction committees with. So I was really, I guess, naive, thinking that they were willing to help us when we were just getting set up. It came out after what had happened because, they had, I guess, attempted a couple times to come into the dispensary to purchase cannabis. And, of course, you were turned away if you didn't have the legitimate prescription. And the same undercover police officers actually went to a licensed physician of Saskatchewan and got a prescription for for medical purposes and came back and purchased medical cannabis with their prescription. And that is actually why we got busted, is because we sold medical cannabis to medical patients.
Wow.
And I believe it's entrapment, but we didn't understand.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know,
because...
And so, like, I know, for one of the questions that they asked one of these undercover cops was, so do you have, like, so what did you say to this licensed physician that I had a back problem? Do you have a back problem? No. So you lied to a licensed physician of Saskatchewan to get a prescription for a medication by lying. You said you had a back problem. Yeah. Yes, I did. Yeah, he admitted that.
Wow.
So, and so that's what happened. But they didn't. They came in. They locked the door behind them. They walked in. They told everybody they waited for all four of us to come. I know my co-accused, Lane, he was at the university that morning doing presentations about Crohn's disease and cannabis and the success of using it as a medicine. But they waited for him to come back, and it was almost within 10 minutes after making sure we were everybody. There was only four of us. I was volunteering. We had a girl at the reception, and then there was Mark and Lane, and they waited for us to come.
So you weren't even getting paid, and they had filed these criminal charges against you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I wanted to volunteer because it's a passion. Like, that place saved my life. Like the dispensary, working in the dispensary, and even just having the access to it. If it wasn't for that place, I wouldn't have known, and I was 95 pounds at that point. I was at the point of my disease where I was spiritually broken even. Like, I could not. I was done. Like, I knew I was dying, and like the Compassion Club and any dispensary, like, I mean, it saves my life. So it really burns me that we're sitting here 2 years later, with dispensaries open again, literally across the street from where we were, and we're backpedaling. Like, we shouldn't be where we are now with dispensaries. We should have learned 2 years ago, in regards to access and why we need proper access and safe access. We need to be able to have a place where we can go and say this isn't working or this is working, and have, compassionate people being able to, who are educated, to be able to give you advice and support. And so, that raid was really hard because, me as a social worker in the community, working, hard in the inner city my whole life, even volunteering before I was in school, and then to turn around thinking like we're doing a good thing here, but turning it around and making it that I was a bad guy, and that was really hard.
Yeah, these people could see what you were doing. Like, you're involved in the addiction ends, as far as working with the community involvement end of stuff. But yet, they turn around and turn you into a criminal because you're trying to help other sick people.
Right.
Yeah. And so is that? I guess is this still ongoing in the courts?
No. Our charges were all dropped last November. Mark took he was fined. The Compassion Club was fined a fine, and everybody walked away with nothing, no charges, which is good. But 2 years, it's still, we're still picking up the pieces. We still have that, some of that trauma of how we were treated, and
For sure.
the things that were said to us, the things that were done in the 2 years. From when we were arrested to when the charges were dropped, like that's still something those are demons that we're still dealing with,
How were you treated when you were arrested?
Well, at first, we were, like I said, they pulled us all to the front area. The medicine room was separate. So we were pulled onto the couches and we were all sitting there, and that's when I recognized one of the undercover arresting officers. He was one of the officers that I had actually done a co-facilitated a marijuana information group with. In the past, through the YCJA, the Youth Criminal Justice Act. I used to do a lot of work with them, with that. And so youth that were caught selling marijuana, or caught trafficking or possession of marijuana, and they had their first charges, they had a choice of attending a marijuana information group. And so them and their parents would come and attend a session that myself and an undercover cop would co-facilitate, and then their charges would be dropped. And so one of those officers was somebody that I had recognized from one of the groups that I had done in the community. And that's, how do I know you? Oh, right, that's how I knew you. And so, no, we were treated horrible. We were taken into incarceration. I had worked in the jail system prior to for 5 years, so I'm somewhat institutionalized, right? Now, since the hospital visits would institutionalize a person, but I knew the sounds of the jail. I knew the smell, what happens, the screaming, the toilets flooding, that kind of stuff. I was used to that stuff. So when I went in, I wasn't really scared, but I was really taken back by the treatment I was given. I'm not sure about my co-accused, but I was so worried about them, right? Because like I said, my office, I went into my cell and the door closed and I thought, this is kind of like where I was working. This is okay. I'll just read a book and try to, but as time went on, I got sicker and sicker because I was actually supposed to medicate prior to the arrest and I didn't. So they held us in for 24 hours. I had no medication. I was getting sick. I was cold. And then, I was treated badly. Like I asked for a blanket. And the security guard, I remember, said, well, you don't need a blanket. Well, I'm cold. Well, then don't go to jail. So those are the kinds of things, right? I was sick. I had requested my medication. I have a prescription for medical cannabis. 2 days I'm in the hospital. I'm stuck in jail for 24 hours. I have a prescription, and they refused to let me have it. They refused to let me eat my oil. They refused to let me smoke it. Like I have a vaporizer. I had edibles. I had suppositories. I had access to different types and forms, but they refused to give me my medication that I actually need. And there was one point where they were trying to get a hold of my daughter on the phone to bring me my expired opiate prescription because they had asked me, we can give you T3s. No, I don't want. I haven't had a pharmaceutical, and this is my medicine. And one of the nurses in the jail as well. He had a family member that had Crohn's disease, so he really drilled me I don't understand why you're not using Remicade, and I don't understand why this doesn't work for you. It works for my I don't know if it was his sister-in-law or whoever, but so those were the types of things that we went through. Through my interrogation, I was in there for 3 hours, 2 a.m. They pulled me in there. That was the point where I was really sick. I was really cold. They wouldn't give me anything. And a lot of a lot of the things they said is well, Jamie, you should know better. You should know better than this. Well, know better about what? I'm helping people. This is saving people's lives. We had elderly people come into our facility or are needing medication from this facility that needed somebody to come and pick it up or a delivery. And then, within a month, they're coming actually into the Compassion Club by themselves because they're able to get out of bed, And I remember one of the officers asked me in my interrogation, do you think we're bad guys? And I kind of taken back thinking, what? I'm confused. What do you mean? He's like, well,
yes.
I've been looking on, yeah. He's like, well, I've been looking on Facebook and, we're taking it pretty hard in the jaw here. Do you think that, what we did was wrong? And do you think we're bad guys? Absolutely, you're a bad guy because what we were doing was safe. What we were doing was legit. And you guys knew about it. And you guys turned around and took medicine from 600 people. I said, look at me, I'm sick right now, and I'm not even anything compared to the people we were helping, and I'm away from them. And it was crazy because I was actually supposed to go back to work. I was off work for 5 years because of Crohn, and I was supposed to go back to work because of cannabis. And because of the raid, I didn't have access to medicine again. And I got really sick, and I was sick up until the following February, until I started getting gifted medicine because, And so again, I'm fit to return because of the cannabis, and it's night and day. And I think that's one thing that I think is really important too is, I want to be able to educate people between the difference of medicinal cannabis and even recreational cannabis. Not saying that one thing's bad over the other, absolutely not, but there is a difference, when people start arguing, youth, adolescents shouldn't be using cannabis as medicine. You know what? It's absolutely, there's a huge difference between cannabis medicine. If the tolerance that I have already just from THC, from taking it right from the beginning, from eating it, Crohn's people, we absorb it like a sponge, the more we take, the better we feel, not the higher we feel, so that's why eating it, the more we eat, the better it is for us, the more we're healing ourselves, the more we eat, so I just...
A lot of CB2 receptors in the bowel.
Yeah, right. There's CB
there is. Yeah.
We have transmitters, we have receptors, like they're like little Lego blocks, right? And so like with us, anybody who has any type of autoimmune disease, like my daughter, she's alopecia, and this is another thing. When we were working at the dispensary, I had access to olive oil, and this is really bizarre, but we were sitting there one night and I had some medicated olive oil, and we just started rubbing it in her head, in her bald spot, and a little patch of hair grew back. And so like she ingests it and stuff, but that's, people with autoimmune diseases, we need that, THC, we need it. And, a lot of people, I've been hearing a lot of information out there from professionals saying that THC is not medical beneficial. It's just the only component that gets you high. All the other properties, CBD is the one that's medical beneficial. Well, no, like I've tried to go just CBD and I can't. I need THC. Mm-hmm. I have that blockage and I need a certain amount to make it functional so I'm not in pain.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So,
well, I've even seen that even with the children dealing with epilepsy. I've seen some of the mothers comment that they do need the mix.
Oh, absolutely. I'm following so many people, and I have one friend with back problems, and I'm like, I just wish that CBD was something that we had in our diet, something that we had, access to on a regular basis, because a lot of us won't have the problems that we're having with our health if we did have proper access to, some of the natural medications. And I had one friend, well, you need to show me some stats as to how it's helped people. And I said, well, better yet, how about if I give you 10 names of people that I know personally and I talk to on a daily or every second day basis on how cannabis is helping them function or live their life normal, because if not, they would be on an opiate or, like I said, curled up in a little ball in the corner or battling that opiate addiction. Because, if I didn't know what I knew about opiates and I didn't see all these, humans being destroyed by a prescription, I would be an addict, because it freaking feels good. If you take more than you're supposed
to be an addict.
Freaking right.
Fighting for your health. It's so much
easier. And you know what? It's easier, and I see how people get addicted, because I see that it's easier for somebody who has a professional job to pop a pill than it is to go outside and have a hoot. Yeah. Or go smoke on that vaporizer. Absolutely. Right?
No.
So for me, I'm tired of I don't want to hide anymore. Like, there is a fine line, and I do really think it's really important for people like us to get together and have these support groups and get together and have education sessions and talk about what our options are. And then also providing accurate information, not telling people that THC is bad for you and all it does is get you high. No.
Well, hey,
stigmas that as the cannabis community evolves, we're going to have to debunk, right? Because everyone thought, like CBD is like the bee's knees. And now it's like, well, yes, CBD is a bee's knees, but you need a variety of cannabinoids as nature has intended.
Absolutely.
Right?
And there's so much involved in it.
And there's so much knowledge to be gained and learned. So I'm going to take a step back. I want to know about how the RCMP and Saskatoon City Police were tangoing in this raid, how they were kind of holding hands there.
I'm not exactly sure. All I know, like on a personal level, so because we were charged federally, like I had 8 federal charges. So ironic, because I went from was in the correctional, institution to being on the other side. And I understand now, like when we talk about recidivism, and I'm sorry, it burns me, because, we're making criminals out of people that aren't criminals, and then we're keeping them criminals, because for 2 years, I was reprimanded. I wasn't allowed to work. I wasn't allowed to get a job because of my charges, because of all these things, because I'm bad. Why? Because I was trying to develop an educational program for a medication that works for me, so
how does the RCMP, though, in terms of Saskatoon City Police?
Well, the RCMP had to be involved because they were federal charges, right? So it was, and I had, some personal things going on in my personal life that I needed RCMP help with, and I really feel that they weren't helping me because of my charges. Yeah. Because there was a few occasions where I did go into the local RCMP and make complaints for my safety, and I seen one of the undercover officers that arrested me in there, and I was trying to make the complaint, and of course, nothing was followed through with, right? So, there's that type of thing. But, it was just so sketchy, like a lot of the evidence they had, they said, that they raided one of the vehicles because they seen a suppository cap in the back seat. But then yet when we looked at the list, of stuff that they had confiscated, there wasn't anything found on that list. So, there was just a lot. It was really hard. It was really hard to see that it was a game. It was really, it was a game that they were playing.
But with your life.
But with our life, my life, yeah. Like they went on like, global news. Like it was horrible for me. Like, like I said, me as a professional in the community, going to the Compassion Club for support because I needed, and the cannabis community support is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like I have never had such support in my life, And so going there and getting the support from patients and not being made to feel dirty, they arrested us and we were called potheads and we were called, we were dirty people because,
No, it was a drug trafficker.
We were called drug traffickers and potheads and we deserved it. And it was just horrifying, because there's 4 of us that can't live without this medicine. And we were bashed for all these things, And so John Gormley and Global News and the chief of police, they said we were flat out drug traffickers. We are not. We not only got arrested for drug trafficking, but we are drug dealers. We are flat out drug traffickers. And that was displayed. And that's one of the reasons why I eventually went and said, I'm not a drug trafficker, because I'm not. I am no threat to the community. I'm actually was supposed to, help implement some programs with my team. And that was it. Like working in that dispensary, like I said, changed my life. After being arrested, it did. Like I said, I was going through some personal stuff. I was in a relationship, a situation that wasn't healthy, and I was scared. And so, after being arrested and everybody knew my name, I had nothing to lose. So I was able to get out of a horrible situation that I was in because of them. I was isolated for a long time, like you guys know, having a disease, being sick, having the pooping disease. Nobody wants to come around eventually, and nobody wants to invite you to go do things because if you're invited out and you're sick, you're the one who always cancels. So there's no point, inviting you. And so there's a lot of...
But those invitations still matter, and that's what's important is like with chronic illness, is still making that effort, because I totally know what you mean.
Yeah, and so working there, was probably, it was one of the most important things that I probably could have done in my life. And looking back, would I do? Yeah, I'd do it again. I'd do it all over again.
Yeah,
I would not be there.
Feels good to help people. You can help people that way.
Especially that I was alive, like going from 95 pounds and looking, having people I work with saying, oh my God, we thought you were dying. I was.
Yeah.
I was. And, with cannabis medicine, I can function, I can live, I can do whatever I like a normal person.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, ladies. It's commercial break time.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we're going into extra minutes here. Okay. Okay. Tonight our bumper is the words of Dr. Sue Sisley, and when we return, we will continue this conversation with our guest, Jaime Hagel. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here on Lifestyle Radio. See you in 5.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
What we find from patients is a lot of them learn how to use it more in a targeted way to manage. For instance, a lot of our PTSD patients have flashbacks at night and real trouble sleeping, and so they can simply dose marijuana in the evenings to help them decompress so that they can get some rest at night, which normally they couldn't do.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Cannadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Cannadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Cannadays. Have your say without saying a word. Cannadays.ca.
Hi, this is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
In 2017, the Canadian government announced that although recreational cannabis would be federally legal, its distribution and sale would be determined by individual provinces. Later that fall, the province of Ontario announced its proposed legal framework, that a subsidiary of the LCBO be the sole proprietor of cannabis in our province, essentially creating a one-party monopoly. This government-controlled monopoly could result in longer wait times, supply issues, and insufficient experience due to lack of proper consultation with the pre-existing industry. The provincial government believes this framework will restrict access to children and help eliminate the black market, but this proposed action will only push illicit suppliers further underground. Meanwhile, over the past 2 decades, there's been a growing industry of intelligent, savvy, and responsible cannabis entrepreneurs who have been working hard to provide access and education around the medicinal, therapeutic, and recreational uses of cannabis. We are Sensible Ontario. We're not new, but we're excited to meet you. Visit our website now and donate to become a part of Making Sense.
If you'd like to learn more about Sensible Ontario, go to sensibleontario.ca.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
The proof is in the clinical response. We're seeing patients who are able to walk away from a lot of their psych meds and their opioids and simply manage their symptoms with one drug, marijuana, and that speaks volumes. Despite what the government says about marijuana having no medical value, you can't deny all these anecdotal reports.
All right. You see what happens when you got live shows? You come back live, and some people don't even realize it, even ourselves. Okay, tonight's bumpers feature the words of Dr. Sue Sisley. Her proposal to study cannabis use to treat PTSD was approved by the National Institute on Drug Abuse. After working at the University of Arizona for nearly 8 years in various capacities, she was fired from the university in 2014. They said because of funding and reorganization issues. However, she claims her firing was because of her interest in studying the potential medicinal uses of cannabis to treat PTSD. That's what happens. They want to shut down the stuff that's leaning towards the truth. Tonight on the program, we are joined by our guest, Jaime Hagel, and a joint host, Alicia Yashcheshen. You could hear her way back there in the kitchen, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, Jaime and Alicia, during the show here, we've been talking about different things. You're working with people with addictions, the rage, or medical condition. And to finish up with the Ray end of things, and being that, being you're a social worker, you're working in the community, and then this raid happened. What did you become stigmatized? Some people look at you negatively, thinking that, well, okay, she's supposed to be helping people with drug addiction, but yet here she's getting, busted for selling drugs.
Yeah, that was hard. Like I said, because of what they had said in the paper, rather than giving facts what had happened about the dispensary, they just went ahead and pretty much, convicted us of drug trafficking. But it was hard for me because, like I said, I was a volunteer. My point of being there was, to provide services to patients. And then, after the fact, it was hard because, I was called a party girl. I was told that, me advocating for my prescription cannabis was no different than if I was advocating a prescription opiate or a Ritalin. And that, that in itself still burns me the most. Because the reason why I'm not addicted to opiates is because I decided to use cannabis. The reason why I can heal myself is because of cannabis. And so it was hard for me, and then being isolated from my friends, right? So that Compassion Club, like a disease, like an addiction, biologically, psychologically, socially, and spiritually, we're affected by it. And like any disease, Crohn's disease, addiction, all those 4 stages are affected. And so like I said, I had nothing in any of those areas. Spiritually, I was lost. And then when I found this magical, easy, natural medicine that had no side effects for me, and it was given to me, by the Compassion Club, and having those 3 people who also used it, and the learning curve that I took, and the supports that I made from them, they changed my life. And honestly, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. And so being able to,
It sounds like you learned from other people's experiences. You heard their stories, and you went, "Wow!" And
that's what the right?
Exactly.
That's what it's about. And I really believe in that. I believe in support and collaboration and community building and wraparound stuff, because why are we reinventing wheels? Why, and that's the one thing that burns me. We had a medical thing going on, it wasn't about, making money off of patients. It was legitimately providing something that is needed. And so when I still look now and I see people trying to make money, and it's kind of like a contest. This isn't a contest. This is about providing access to people that need it. And so, losing them when I was told, when I was arrested and I was for that 24 hours and I was released and I was told, you can't talk to Lane, you can't talk to Mark, you can't talk to, the other girl that was accused of, I was devastated, and that put me back into that hole, because I lost my support system, my cannabis Crohn support system.
Yeah, it becomes it's very important. I know when I first got my Crohn's, and I was looking at the cannabis as a way to deal with the Crohn's and avoid the opiate drugs. We would get together. There was about 5 or 6 of us. We would get together on Tuesday. We called it Token Tuesday, and we all didn't have Crohn's. We were just all had some type of medical condition, and it allowed us an opportunity to sit down around a table and just discuss and just talk about the things that we go through, and that itself can be very therapeutic.
And that's something that we were talking about doing in Saskatoon, right? We were talking about cannabis Crohn support group, because we need education support. We need that a place. We have some stuff written out. We need to have a safe place where we can support each other. We can have healthy education, healthy advocacy. We can speak openly about a prescription. We can talk about what works for us, and that's one thing we've been doing. There's a group of us women that get together and we talk about baking and what helps. If one of us gets sick, we make sure we can try and help and provide whatever we can do for each other. And that's, I think, one of the most important parts of having a dispensary or having access, is that building community and support.
Now, is I know Saskatchewan has made some announcements on the legalization stuff. What are they looking at there as far as, is it retail? Is it all private? Is it done through the liquor stores?
Well, they're providing licenses to different locations. So, like, I know PA is getting 2, Regina is getting 6, Saskatoon is getting 7. So there's a process.
So is it private retail? Is it private retail, or
private.
is it something where you could get back into?
Yeah, well, it's going to be on the recreational side.
You're right. Yeah, but there's still going to be some medicinal people going there. Right?
Well, for sure, absolutely. Like, I know I'd be utilizing it. I'm all about community. I would rather give my money to somebody in the city of Saskatoon than somebody in, Alberta or wherever,
Right.
But absolutely it is. So I am, hoping, that there's something that we can do, once everything's set in place, if there's storefronts. I mean, definitely education, because there's a lot more to it than just even medical versus recreational. Like, you have to throw the parent component in, you have to throw, the intervention, prevention, making sure people have accurate information, because there's parents out there now that are going to have the option of, do I want to go into a dispensary and get some weed, or do I want to go to the liquor store and buy a bottle of wine? And if I do this, am I a bad parent? How am I going to talk to my children about the difference between recreational use as a youth and as an adult? Talking about brain chemistry and that's the one thing that, a lot of people are all over about is, adolescent use, and that's what the government's focus is on. Well, absolutely, adolescents have 8 tasks that they need to develop, and they don't have that blood-brain barrier. So if they don't need it medicinally for anxiety or for whatever they choose to use, because like I said, 9 out of 10 kids that choose pot usually have a reason to self-medicate for it. And so if you have that one person that, is using it for non-medicinal reasons, is it addiction or is it cannabis use disorder? Because basically we all know if we smoke too much dope, we get something called a motivational syndrome, and that's just laziness. We just don't, we're lethargic, and some people choose different strains and all that for those reasons. But that's why education is important for kids. Like, how as parents are we able to do this and not feel guilty because it's legal now, because for all this time we've been told. So there's so much more than just medical versus recreational. There's like education no matter what,
Oh, there's no doubt. Education is very, very important, whether you use it for education, recreational or medicinal end of it all.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Alicia, before we run out of time here, did you want to get a question in this segment?
Well, I would like to know what Jamie's going to be doing this next little while. What you got cooking?
Well, I'm just going to be, working in the community as I usually do. But on the side note, I'm hoping to do some work with you.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing, like I said, we want to facilitate a medicinal support group, hopefully out of the hospitals, just for medicinal patients, as well as, just information in the community. Getting out into the community and doing some information. I had done some work, and I'm doing future work in PA with the holistic medicinals down there with information and education. They're not PA is still a little bit behind Saskatoon in regards to community and presenting and stuff, but my foot's there. So work with you, work there. Those kinds of things. I'm helping with some friends, in regards to some organic farming. So. I just want to keep the education flowing. I want to work with some people. I'm already scheduled to do some education in services and stuff. I'm going to one next month actually, in regards to cannabis as medication and how to administer it as a nurse. Those types of things. So I'm still going into the direction of cannabis, medical cannabis. Because I'm here today because of that. I'm alive. I can function. I can be a mom. I can be an educator. I can be a counselor. I can be anybody because of cannabis, And without it, I'm a ball on the floor.
Talking about education, we also it was last week. The rollout of the packaging and labeling and stuff of recreational cannabis. here in Canada. What did you think of some of that stuff?
I mean, when you go into a dispensary and you see the packaging that they already have, some of the, beautiful, I think, professional-looking packaging, it saddens me to see what they have out there for labels. Like I was doing some research prior to just around, the labeling and stuff in the States, and it's similar to what they are allowing, just with the little symbols and it looking like it's plain. Just plain basic. Sad.
Yeah. They said something like, I haven't got it right in front of me, but I had it the other day. I was reading it. It talked about 1 in 2 people can end up being addicted to cannabis over long-term users.
What?
Yeah.
Where am I? I pulled out a whole bunch of stats too.
Unfortunately, I don't have that link. I don't have that website in front of me with that. We covered it on our news segment there on Monday.
Right. Well, I think it's really important when we talk about addiction that we there's a really fine line between using, abusing, and being addicted to it. Anything that we use, right? And so now, in regards to addiction, the physical addiction and stuff, I've seen people, who have the cannabis use disorder who need it, and after 2 days, but that's normal, right? Like, you put any substance in your body, you're going to be grumpy after, 2 days. But there's like the post-acute withdrawal symptoms with cannabis that you wouldn't have, which is the only withdrawal symptoms and happens 2 weeks after. It's just sleeping problems or like having nightmares, that kind of thing, right? So, after, like, when you're looking at cannabis use disorder, you're also looking at the ritual of it too, right? And like that doctor was saying, Dr. Claw, is it helping or is it affecting you, right? So once it starts affecting, are you going to work? Are you not going to work? Is it causing that amotivational syndrome? Then maybe they're, on that fine line of, maybe abusing it, right? So, I think it's really important to throw that out there. Like, a lot of people try to scare everybody. You use it, you abuse it, and you're addicted, and it's simple as that, right?
Yeah, here's I pulled up the warning labels. There's 14 warning labels in total. They don't have them all listed here. But there's 14. They're gonna interchange. They're not gonna put them all on the package all at once. They're gonna interchange them. But they say as far as the primary sentence in the warning label says cannabis can be addictive, and then the secondary sentence, there's 3 different options. It says up to half people who consume cannabis on a daily basis have work, social, or health problems from using cannabis. Up to 1 in 2 people who use cannabis daily will become addicted.
Wow.
That's what
okay. But you're also the warning labels on booze.
Exactly.
Like on alcohol bottles, why doesn't it show mangled up bodies after a car accident? Where's the deterrent for alcohol?
Yeah.
Right. If you look at Health Canada stats that came out too, right? Like, I went through that and I highlighted a bunch of stuff because I'm even looking there's research showing, in regards to, for example, cancer. Like, one of the things that I just, it really upsets me is the information out there that says, smoking 1 joint is equivalent to smoking 8 to 10 cigarettes to your body, right? Oh. No, absolutely not. So, they're putting out these labelings. Health Canada put out the effects of cannabis, right? And so there's short-term and long-term effects, which some of them I agree with, but one of the things...
It came from Health Canada.
Right.
You're running
but there's one thing here that says damaged blood vessels caused by smoking,
right.
The effects on the body, that impairment can last, effects can, where does it say, regular use, have trouble certain skills with driving. It just says a whole bunch of different things in here that I would question, because we have to really be careful because of, the prohibition and the information that we were given, the false information we were given about it, right? So anyway, yeah, I would really like to see, the links and the, research.
Yeah. Well, they were questioned about it, and they say that this is the research that they were given, and got the right information from the right people, and I just found that astonishing that they say that 50% of all long-time users will become addicted. That's like I've heard the stat about a 9% overall rate. They say it can be addicted, but 50%.
Yeah, but see, then you have to also look at the stats where they're coming from, right? Because you have people that come in, like I know from my history, like, and I'm not arguing people, like if I'm not trying to say that they're, I'm dismissing their addiction.
Right.
But what I'm saying is there's people that come in for marijuana addiction, for example. If I have people coming in for an alcohol addiction, they're there because they have issues, right? Like they have, it's affecting their life. The majority of the people that came in with marijuana use was because somebody else had an issue with it. They never had an issue with it. They were using it for medicinal reasons because they had anxiety and they used it and it helped them in a crowd, or they don't understand, but my mom wants me to quit, or my husband wants me to quit because I'm using too much. So the majority of these people that came in because of using cannabis were shunned, just like me. You're not allowed to use it because you're bad. It's bad. It's a drug, and so the majority of these people coming in, is because of other people had an issue with it. And so that's one thing we focused on too then. Well, if they have an issue, what are their issues? What could we do in these sessions to help so that these issues that you have with your partner, whoever, we can alleviate that, right? Because these people weren't prepared to quit because it was helping them in some way, shape, or form. So if you actually look at it, look at the statistics, I would really love to see those, just to see, these people that are using it, and are addicted, is it because of anxiety or these underlying issues that we don't talk about?
They're using it continuously because of the fact they're finding a benefit with it. Like I'm on medication that I've been taking, or pharmaceutical medication that I've been taking, I'm going to say now for 35 years.
Yeah.
So, cannabis, if it helps somebody, and there's no guarantee they're going to ever stop needing it, but that doesn't mean that they're addicted. They're just finding the fact that there's a benefit to them health-wise.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's people. Like I have so many people. Like I said, I have my whole community now, and they wouldn't there's people that can't function without it. You function normal, and so that's why you have to question these driving laws and stuff. Like, how is this going to be fair for medicinal people? For people like me that I actually can function.
There was.
And I'm not intoxicated. Like, I'm not going to go and smoke a joint while I'm driving and smoke it because I'm not going to do that because I'm not. But I'm not saying, I'm not. Anyway, there's choices and stuff, and I just don't. I think there's still a lot more that we can do, but we need to start voicing. And I'm happy that I'm able to get out of my shell and be able to, help with that.
That's right, exactly. Okay, ladies, we are right near the bottom of the hour, almost down to the last couple of minutes here to wrap things up. What we'd like you to do here, Jamie, is to we're looking for a shout-out, a person, place, a thing, a website, how people can get a hold of you, so on and so forth, anything like that you'd like to mention?
Well, I'm doing work with Milwaukee Farms. I'm doing work with Alicia. I'm doing, with also with the Northern Holistic Medicinals in PA. So Facebook, any of those places, if you have any questions, I guess. And we're putting our heads together to come up with some locations and cards. And
is there a Facebook group where somebody, if they needed to, could get a hold of you?
It's still in the works, so we'll definitely post it for folks to find it for sure.
All right, good. Okay, all right, Alicia, have you got a shout out for someone? Something?
Yes, I'd love to thank Jamie for coming on the show and telling her story and liberating herself by letting other social workers know that hiding in the shadows is not what it's about, and the profession advocating for others, so that's what they should do, and that's what she was doing when she was volunteering her time during a raid that was perpetuated by, some, I don't know, I'm gonna hold my tongue here. So some unjust actions.
Yeah,
So
shouldn't
we send
be
them
punished
love
for
and-
helping people.
And yeah.
All right. Okay.
I just want to, and I want to thank you guys, obviously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah,
for having us, and yeah.
Well, thank you to you, Alicia, for filling in last time for me.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It was a little sore still, but we had a really good guest last week also, so that was good. He was really good. So.
Yes. Okay. I will be back next Wednesday with Kim Cooper and her scheduled guest, Liz England, and she's with CC. She's with CC Nexus, so sponsor of our program. She's going to come on and tell her story and talk about the company. So, let's see. Yes, you can find us on Facebook, and we're on Twitter at Pace Radio. We are on Instagram as Pace Radio Show, and we are on the web as pace-online.ca. Thank you. Go to our aforementioned sponsors, the friendly and helpful folks at CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. I would think with over 2,000 seeds, they've got to be the largest ones. They can also be found at ccnexus.global. And the Canadays who are found in downtown Camelford, they give us a spot to help educate the people. And also to the man behind the baggie, our producer, Al Rapp. And a big thank you to our guest, Jamie. Thank you very much for coming on to the show and sharing your story with our listeners.
Thanks
again. You're welcome. We'll have to have you again back on the show in the future.
Oh, for sure. That'd be fun.
Good. And Alicia, to you, thank you, like I said. Thanks for filling in for me 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, thanks for not ditching me tonight there, Alex.
Hey, the price was right. It was live. It was a Christmas present.
Oh my God! We just found out that I guess Best Buys in Regina is being raided right now by Regina City Police.
Oh no! Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Corporate greed wins, I guess. Well, for temporary purposes.
Love and peace and
Oh no! There you go. Live report. It's getting raided. Some of them are past guests on the program.
Yeah. Pat from Best Buds. Yeah, his shop in Regina is like the headquarters, and they are being raided right now.
That worries me. Like that's my medicine. That's my access. You know.
I know when I go to Regina, that's where I stop. So it's amongst other places like Kel's and stuff. But
Kel's, yeah,
that's a scary climate. Like I hope that
it worries me because I'll be sick if dispensaries are closed and there's no access until recreational comes into play.
We're all gonna damn die.
Oh my god!
Well, you know,
like that's a scary time in Saskatchewan. Place of healthcare where Tommy Douglas came from. What a disgrace.
And you know, after these raids, there's always that question: what about the patients? And Jamie, you two sounds like ones that could be suffering as patients from this end. And I know that Alicia was recently in a CBC News article, about I believe it was you guys being raided or somebody else being raided. Where do the patients go?
It was a break-in, and they didn't treat them like a citizen, a tax-paying citizen. They raided them. They made a choice, and they used their discretion to hurt people, and that didn't just hurt them. And then we had a rash of people who actually died from opiate overdoses in Saskatoon after that dispensary was closed. Coincidence? No. You take a dispensary off the street, you put more hard drugs on the street. It's proven fact.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed that everybody's okay and, for the best results. So, all right. And my last thank you. I got to get my thank yous out. My last thank you goes to our listeners. We always appreciate listeners tuning into the program. And thank you. And good night.
Good night.
Good night.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.